Off the channel here.
PRCAC meeting of January 23rd. Thank you all for postponing the bad weather and postponing it and coming and joining us this week. Okay. So, as you can also find the copies of the minutes, or the agenda, the minutes from our December regular meeting were adopted by email and submitted to the county for posting on the PRCAC webpage, which has been done. And the next thing on our agenda is all right, so we're going to move to public comment and limit each speaker to 3 minutes and try and get through everyone before cycling back and allowing to go around in circles. So who would like to speak first?
Is it not correspondence first?
Well, public comment isn't even on the agenda. It's usually, public comment is usually first after the call to order in the minutes. So I'm going straight to public comment, which is in the place where it would normally be located. Okay, so no public comment?
No.
All right. Okay, everybody's just confused with Jay.
The letter that was sent off to council on the 14th, looking back through minutes and everything, it doesn't seem that there was any talk by this board. I did miss the December meeting as I was in Vegas. But in those meeting minutes, there's no mention of commenting to county council on the PRIBC's kick at the can for their try their 2072 revisions. Not sure why a letter was sent off that had any mention of that when it wasn't talked about in public meeting and voted on, and it doesn't seem like it was of great importance to get done without it being talked about in a public meeting. So, not sure what's going on the board, but it's not the best thing for the community when things are going on behind the scene, when that board is held to the Open Public Meetings Act, where everything, all decisions have to be done in front of the public. Meeting minutes are supposed to reflect exactly what happened, and there's supposed to be an audio recording at a minimum along with the minutes. It's great that there's been video happening, and yeah, not sure why something like that would happen when there's no mention of it in a meeting.
Okay, would you like to address that, or would you give your response earlier?
Well, I can. I mean, I drafted most of that letter, and Steve and I guess, ended up working on it. The letter was intended to be basically an accompaniment to our submission to PDS that was going to council at that meeting. At least I understood it was. I actually know the answer to what it did go. And I consider it a sort of a bureaucratic step in the process, not an action of any kind. We spent months coming up with these proposals based on public input and deliberations that we had at this table in public. And the point of the letter was to ask council to consider what PRCAC had put forward on behalf of the community, and not to do nothing, which would be certainly one possibility. They could choose to leave 2072 exactly the way it is. They could take the PRIBC approach and repeal, I guess, repeal the entire provision. But our position was to have them adopt the position that we.
Right, but when the letter states that you don't want the county to give them their chance at the, that, and it hadn't been spoken about in a public meeting, I don't see how that could get added to a letter.
The version I emailed, the only reference I think that came up about the PRCAC was a request that the petition, that they reject the petition, not that they don't hear it, they could certainly hear it.
Right, but when that was never spoken about for any public comment, that getting added to that letter was something done internally on that board that people in the community, there's some of us that have been coming to every meeting, and the only reason we missed the last one is because we decided to take 5 days and get out of here. But we would have been here otherwise. And for that board to, the public hearing is the time for a talk up to that, along with the community, to find out what the community wants. When there is a talk at a board meeting, open public meeting, it's not right. That was an extra decision to add that was internally in the board from emails I saw. You asked Steve Wolf if everybody was in agreement. Each states in an email, the votes were done. That right there was, where were the votes then? A day or so later, Steve and Allison are emailing. She questions him about email, or the vote, where in the chain, there's no proof that anybody voted, and he says it wasn't a vote, it was just housekeeping. Well, when you can sweep something under the rug and call it housekeeping, but it's not housekeeping, and when you don't hold open for the public, we get dissension, and people get pissed off, and it can't be done behind closed doors. There's no talk.
I appreciate your position. Without the intention of anyone here to piss off anybody in the community, but this was, from my perspective, I say I wrote most of the letter, it was intended to be essentially a cover letter to the county to say, we did this, please consider it, and please reject other things that come before you on this topic. I think that's entirely consistent with where we've been in the last 10 months. We didn't put forward our proposal with the changes that are in there with the idea of saying you could make these changes, so he's just as happy if you made other changes that beyond what we did, or repeal entirely, or rejecting our changes altogether and sticking with the current version. So that was my thinking. I mean, it could be wrong. I don't want to say that it didn't have that possibility of being wrong, but that was where I'm coming from. It was not intention to slip something by the community. Obviously, we had, it was in there something, on the number of meetings we had tons of meetings, special meetings.
We have had tons of meetings, but
we're not trying to get anything past the community.
From what I remember, there was never mention of the PRIBC other than that they had tried communicating once or twice. Once over the Bennett had tried to take, post it live and whatever, and another letter. I can't speak on behalf of them, but that's my recollection of the only talk that I remember hearing about the PRCAC. It just surprises me that it would even be included in the letter when that was nothing that the public was involved in talking about.
I think the letter came up very ad hoc because at least 2 of us were planning on going to county council's meeting last week, but then the weather warning set in. So there was some informal discussion about, well, we could send a letter to our position that we want them to seriously consider what we presented, because we have had special meetings and input, and this project has been ongoing back since the character plan, the document that shall no longer be named. And so we're looking at least 6 years of effort that has gone into this particular project, and there was, our intention was to go to the meeting, and when the weather stopped us from doing that. There was very informal discussion about, well, maybe somebody should just send a letter. And it wasn't a vote, it wasn't everybody let's get together and do this. It was just an idea that it should go, as Stephen said, as an accompaniment to our submission,
Four
that this be
letters.
considered.
OPMA.
Yeah, I hear you, Kenny. I think we all do, and we all respect that with very high regard. There was never any intention to do something subversive behind the backs of the community, and I think that's what we're trying to say to you. We all agree that this certainly has the visual, a very poor visual. It doesn't look good. Yes, that certainly, I think we're trying to ask you to understand that it was not intentional and it wasn't an action. It was just a submission addendum. All right, Allison?
I think part of the major problem that you're gonna find from many people, I actually emailed this to Steve Wolf, is the portion of the letter that states that you're asking for them to withdraw the petition made by the PRIBC.
Well, let's make one thing perfectly clear just right now. There were more than one version of the letter submitted. Because Stephen wanted to write it and email it, and Steve Wolf went and handed it in, and they're different versions.
Okay, well,
So, there's not even,
okay,
there's not
So
even,
where's the copy of the one that was sent in?
Well, the county has not, what it says in the last sentence is, which is the 100% you're referring to in the other version.
this
We
one's
respectfully request that county council reject the PRIBC's petition regarding this matter in view of the community's serious efforts to improve 2072.
okay, so here's gonna be my problem with that. The PRCAC does not have veto power over any other group inside Brown. So from someone who sits on the voters board, who sits on taxpayers board, I personally would find it offensive if you wrote a letter saying, okay, well, the taxpayers have sent you a request, or the voters have sent you a request, because we are asking to be heard, and you're saying, you know what, we don't like what they're saying, so we want you to ignore them.
Well, if you listen to what I'm going to say in response, I hope it will be responsive. We're not asking them to ignore it, we're asking them to reject it, to hear, you can certainly hear what we're proposing on behalf of the community, not the entire community, because nobody ever agrees on anything. But this is what the PRCAC came up with. We're asking the council to adopt the changes that this group came up with. We're asking them to reject outright repeal of 2072. We're asking them to reject anyone who might come forward and say, please don't change anything about it. It's perfect the way it is. This is not a veto of anything. Everyone can do what they want. We are not the only people that can ever step out of this community and ask the county to do something or make a request. We are merely,
You're nearly ignoring our 51 members. That's what you're doing, is ignoring our 51 members.
Well, I don't want to get, I'd rather do this the way we do it best when we actually recognize one person at a time, but I don't think we are ignoring everyone in the sense who
has a different view.
We didn't ignore anyone during the 10 months that this was being actively reviewed just last year, and as Linda points out, this review has been going on for much longer even than that. We did not ignore anyone in that process. Everyone had their say. Everyone made lots of comments, one way or the other. I made various comments that this committee chose not to accept. That's the way it goes. So we didn't ignore it, and we didn't ignore you guys. We didn't take your position. You proposed repeal, and we didn't take the option of repeal.
Robert's rules, and I don't need my 3 minutes to respond to what you just stated. When you gave,
you haven't been recognized yet.
Tom.
you're bringing us up directly, so I'm going to answer to you. Okay?
You need to be recognized.
I think I pretty much finished addressing the last comment that Brian made, and now we can recognize whoever's next to be recognized.
Thank you for the decorum.
Okay, so I heard what you said regarding your rationale behind asking council to dismiss or reject or whatever the terminologies you choose to use. What you failed to mention to the room is that in advance of your submitting to Whatcom County PDS your recommendations, you entirely dismissed and left out everything that the PRIBC had put forward regarding its application for a zoning amendment, which actually deserves and will get a hearing examiner's process. which is the proper forum. You rejected putting that even as a mention in your review of 2072 over the numerous meetings that you cite in your letter. You purposefully eliminated that as part of the discourse for your year on this subject. Now, I only haven't finished my 3 minutes, okay? All right? You can ask, you have control of the room, so you can ask it all night long. In my 3 minutes, I'll ask you, where was the vote? Because according to the Washington State Attorney General, who oversees the OPMA, this is outside of your agendas and your minutes that preceded it. So where was the vote? Who voted yea? Who voted nay? And you yourself said you wrote some of the letter, most of the letter. Who wrote the remainder of the letter if it wasn't just Mr. Wolf? Who worked to craft the letter? Who voted on it, yea or nay? And where was that shown in even, as you say, ad hoc minutes, so as to actually be sort of within the range of legality, because you are actually overseen by the Washington State Attorneys General.
That's all very,
And everything you have said here will be picked apart because it's on camera. Every statement is now going to be used to try and figure out what happened. That's how the OPMA works. That's how your body is supposed to function. And all these questions that you've dismissed, we've outlined meticulously for 9 months. So that you opted not to include the PRIDC and its membership and their viewpoint on 2072 in your submission to PDS is actually compounded by your inclusion in this letter. It actually goes to show a process of omission, which will actually go to show perhaps all of those things that could be inferred or implied as to why you took the actions you took. That's all I have to say.
there were 2 questions I was going to ask you.
Well, I've got a response, and so hopefully your thought process will come back. It seems to me you highlighted that PRCAC didn't specifically mention PRIDC's concerns, suggestions, or otherwise in our submission. And my response to you is that PRCAC didn't specifically mention hundreds of suggestions that were made over the course of the past 6 years. What we did was we met, conversed, heard from the public, and found compromised ways of amending the 2072, proposed amendments to 2072 based on what we were hearing in the community. But our submission didn't include specific suggestions or the identities of those that brought up the suggestions. The minutes speak for themselves, the video speaks for themselves. Certainly you made suggestions, your group made suggestions, all that is on record, but you specifically said we didn't mention you in our submission. You're correct, we didn't. And you were asking about a vote, because he kept saying, where's the vote? You were asking for clarification on what?
I was probably asking for clarification. I don't know I don't really want to get into it right now. I don't think it's correct what we need to get into, but I don't actually know what the things are that you claim you asked us to do. I mean, except what's in the minutes from one or two meetings that you guys have actually attended in person.
I too, like Mr. Calder, looked through previous agendas and minutes of the meeting, and the mention of drafting a letter to oppose opposing viewpoints on 2072 has never been mentioned.
Okay, that wasn't, I can get to that point, I wasn't getting to that point. I was asking, you mentioned all these things that we ignored, all the proposals that you guys have made. I know you were at 1 or 2 meetings, and your comments were in our minutes.
It seems to be a regular position you take, that we've only attended 1 or 2 meetings. But we can go to YouTube and we can look at the letters that we send. We don't even get responses back when we send emails to you guys. So your characterization of how many meetings and how much effort is going to be different than the record.
I'll look for any further people who have any comments.
Well, I was going to say, I would have enjoyed seeing from PRICC a comprehensive list of changes to 2072 written and submitted. And besides the little bit of meetings you came and you saw the videotapes, that's great. I would have enjoyed seeing that. We asked for that. And it seems like the stance has always been 2072 or dead or whatever. In our case, not dead. In your case, dead. Very simple. So if you had submitted months ago, and I would have been glad to read them, I certainly would.
Well, we did hear the suggestion. I mean, we did hear the suggestion. There were a very few number of the public that came out and was of the position that they preferred complete abolishment of 2072. But there were many, many, many more attendees at these minutes who wanted those protections in 2072 that specifically are related to Point Roberts. Because if 2072 disappears, we go back to all of the state roads as Whatcom County. And there were many, many people here that felt that Point Roberts was special enough that we should protect 2072. However, it was outdated and some amendments were required. And that is what we've been working on for more time than I have served on this board, which is 4 years. Because I used to go to the meetings when our Grieber was the chairperson and they were discussing it then. I'm saying this board has been discussing this particular regulation for at least 6 years that I've been personally involved sitting in meetings listening to. So I think you're just upset because it sounds like you're upset because we didn't suggest that PRIBC or anyone else wants abolishment of 2072. We didn't suggest that because the community demonstrated to us that they didn't want that to happen. They wanted 2072 protected.
Well, you've got 51 members. They're not being listened to by you.
I don't think that's true, Brian.
That is
That's
totally
a really unfair statement.
Absolutely, black and white true.
It's not true at all.
It
But
is
because you
absolutely
say it, you
true.
think it is. You think it makes it true. And I'm really offended by that.
Good.
We listened to
Good.
Good.
I hope
Good.
you're offended enough to do something about it.
Well, I tell you, we listened
Like,
to
wake up.
many great numbers of community members here. All 51 of them that you represented when you came, and all of the individual members who
Where are all the
attended.
But you weren't able to list them by
ones
name.
represented?
You weren't able to list them by name as the proponents that you seem to be supporting.
How many of your supporters are here?
My supporters?
How many of your position supporters are here?
Well, there's 5 people on this board, and we actually all had varying
We've
positions.
got more than that.
As Stevens pointed out, there were changes to 2072 he wanted to make that did not get passed. There were changes to 2072 I wanted to make that didn't get passed because we had to take the temperature of the entire community and find the compromising position that best represented what we heard.
And in your best representation, it excluded 51 businesses represented by a non-profit private foundation whose sole purpose was to look after issues such as this. You chose to omit that.
I don't understand what you mean by you omitted. We didn't take.
I went back over the minutes of the meeting that included your submission red lines. And note, even though you did mention certain individuals with quotes about how they felt about it, there was not a single mention about the Independent Business Council and its membership and its position on it, which was sent to you prior to your drafting that and sending it to PDX. In fact, it was prior to the meeting where you agreed to adopt it. It's all time-stamped online.
It feels like a fundamental misunderstanding of how, at least how I think something like this group works. We get input from all of it, we hear a hearing, but the only thing I can really actually recall hearing from the PRIBC is that the whole thing should be repealed. I don't know if there were other specific points that I don't recall that you guys mentioned, why don't you tweak this provision out? But if you ask me what is the PRIBC position, it would be that 2072 should be repealed. The community would be better off if we were under the rules that govern the rest of Whatcom County. I think I heard you guys say that many times.
We all need to read that.
But
We read all your.
But the point is, we heard that position. We also heard people say, on much more specific questions, like what do you want to do about section 204 that has prohibitions on various activities on Gulf Road? What do you want to do about setbacks? What do you want to do about, well, the main issue that was motivating this thing at the speed it was, what do you do about things that would possibly make it okay to have the parking arrangement that Warren has at 1480? We heard comments on specific things, and we addressed some of them. We didn't address others. We did not take the position of repealing 2072. That was not the position that we felt the community was putting forward, yes, I take your word for it, you have 51 members who support that position, at least maybe the majority of them, I don't know if they all do.
They're on our website.
By all accounts, it sounds like you attempted to understand what it is we put forward. I'd just like to make one clarification. The reason we put in the zoning amendment application to repeal 2072 is on the grounds that never once has an economic impact study been done on the effects of 2072 on the small town commercial district for which it was designed in the first place.
Agreed.
And you as an organization nodded and moved on.
Well, we also wanted to make changes with economic data to back up, to hopefully provide support for.
And that's why it'll go forward to the hearing examiner, because we then took the time to commission the University Center for Business Research so that we could actually have the data and analysis to take to the hearing examiner for our zoning amendment for the repeal of 2070 based on economic impacts alone.
Why do you want it repealed before you have that data?
Yeah.
Because we've been working with the Port of Bellingham's Economic Regional Office, as well as the Council of Governments and of course the university. And in the numerous discussions we've had over the course of the last 3 months, without our even actually initiating it, there's a shared view down south that it's a bit of a cart before the horse scenario where, as Allison, who you even asked for input on 2072, has stated quite clearly, 2072 is in direct violation of the sub-area plan for which it's actually designed.
Okay,
Hold on. And the sub-area plan is all about the vision of Point Roberts and how it's going to survive as a little community. And most notably, it's sustainable tourism. That's all business related. That's all economics related.
Are you done?
Yep.
Okay, so we're drafting a public, I'm sorry, we've been drafting a to be sent to the public eventually, list of practical conversation about what's changed in 2072. I just counted 9 or 10 changes for the business community already, and that's not including the residential community.
Positive or negative?
The what?
Changes positive or negative?
Positive.
Based
How
on
do you
what?
know?
Based on
You
what
have no
economic
economic
analysis?
basis to say that.
Every one of these changes is practical. Yes, thanks, Allison. Allison's the mom.
The
Thank you.
sub-area plan, the 2072 and the character plan, all were developed based on an economic development plan that was done about 25 years ago.
You're still spouting that BS. It was not a development plan. It was a report for a plan that never got realized.
Exactly.
Yeah, we believe
But
you.
2072 and all these other documents were based on that plan.
Why?
You're saying now that your repeal can, somehow that 2072 should be repealed without any current data, although it was
Oh, no.
developed based on the data of the
No,
time.
we knew that in putting in our application, it would be 3 to 6 months before we could get in front of the hearing center. That's the way the process goes. But we were willing to pay our $403 to get docketed on the county council's agenda so that we could appear before them, which we've done once, and we'll appear before them again so that they can actually allow us to go forward with the hearing examiner process as our application clearly states as our right. So in doing so, had you done a little more research on what you were opposing, you would have realized that by the time the data from the university is through its second draft, and the work from the Economic Regional Office down at the Port of Bellingham coalesces with that, we'll still be a few weeks away from our hearing examiner.
Well, I
So
can tell you
we
personally,
have to build a case to do it correctly so that we can actually show the economic impacts. You can't make pretty good suggestions and say they're good if you didn't do any of the research and you didn't actually get it into the proper venue. The proper venue is not here, it's the hearing examiner. So that council can decide based on the right
I'm
approach.
going to recognize Louise now, please. Thank you.
For my part, I just want to know why and what the purpose was of that last paragraph. Like, who made the decision to put that paragraph in there? And why? It wasn't needed. Your case was perfectly stated with the words up above. Why was that last paragraph put in there and who did it?
you should understand that in every legal case, both sides, there's usually adversarial sides, right? A and B. Somebody says, I reject it. They always do that. They always say, I reject it. In this case, we felt we wanted to reject the elimination of 2072. It's very simple. Wait, let me finish. And therefore, it's completely proper to ask that. We have no power to tell county council or the hearing examiner not to take the case. We will, however, one more thing, be attending any county council meetings and any hearing examiner meetings to state our case on behalf of the public and the government in our quasi-committee sense.
The problem is that there was no public meeting to talk about this position. You got no input from the people that come to the meetings as to whether or not this position should be stated in a letter. And I feel like you just are acting by yourselves and voting amongst yourselves on an issue that should have been in an open public meeting.
Well, I think we hear that. I think we wouldn't do that intentionally, and we didn't do it intentionally with that in mind before. As I mentioned, I perceived this as being a bureaucratic step to accompany our submission. Our submission was not to do whatever county council might get in their head to do, nothing to appeal to other different changes than the ones we put forward. Our proposal was, we spent months doing our stuff, we came up with these, 15 changes, whatever number it is. We would like county council to implement those changes.
So you're saying ostensibly this is a cover letter for the submission you made previously?
And a defense. I never liked that.
Is that essentially what you're saying?
You're going up, hold on, you go up to the judge, and you know the party A is there, and party B comes up, let's say, that's us. Yeah, and you say, we have done all these things, this is great, we want you to project what the other side is doing. That is considered normal. It's not considered abnormal, and it is part of all the work that went into it.
Is it considered normal to write a cover letter to something you submit 3 months later?
3 months later than what?
3 months later.
Your submission to council on your 2072 revisions were back in December? Okay, but you had completed your meetings and you were really planning it out.
It's really December 23rd.
December
Okay,
23rd?
let's take a look.
Yeah, we had the holidays and everything.
No, the timing was because this was, we gave our material to PBS, and I believe PBS was bringing it to council. This was essentially our introduction to our stuff to council.
From us.
That's why there's a disconnect between about 3 or 4 weeks.
Okay, this is still the public comment session, Pam. But I'd like to, before we move on, we clearly hear the concern. I think this subject has been fully discussed out, unless you have something new you want to add. Is it a completely different question you have, Pat?
No, it isn't a completely different question.
Okay.
Actually, didn't get a chance to say anything, because I think it's like, but, the mistake, of course, is just putting in PRIBC at all. It's in the language. You could have said, we appreciate your support for our position, we realize there are other positions. You didn't need to bring in PRIBC at all. It's in the language, it's wrong.
And that's an opinion. The other opinion from a legal point of view is, you should state, we do not believe what the other side is saying. We
But you didn't
reject your
say,
view.
no, but I don't think. You don't listen to the people who want it to stay as is.
It was just not necessary.
Okay, we're going to recognize the next person that has public comment. Is there anyone else in the room who hasn't had an opportunity to speak? Brian, is it on this topic still?
It can be on any topic you like.
We're going to move on from public comment once everybody's had their 3 minutes.
I'm speaking to, excuse me, economic evidence.
Yeah.
Never mind what we're getting studies and we're getting economic reports and so forth and so on. All you had to simply do was, as you do probably daily, go up and down Gulf Road and go, what's wrong here? And it isn't septic related for half of it. Half of it, yes it is. The other half will pass septics. Why is it a disaster out there? Why is it going downhill? Why are people leaving instead of coming in? Why are they closing instead of expanding? All you have to do is walk out the door and turn left and take a walk. You'll see 2 houses being built in our tourist commercial zone. both of which wanted to put residential up and commercial down. By the time 2072 and planning had finished with them, they said, hey, we can build a house here. You got a house. So now you've prejudiced your whole future economic and commercial development of the only corridor in my submission that is viable to get public access to the water, have service commercial along both sides with hopefully tenancies and tourist commercial activities. You've now prejudiced it, and that, if you leave 2072 in, I will guarantee you will be the whole development of Gulf Road will be houses. There's your economic evidence. And if you can't see that, you can't see nothing.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Okay, exactly.
Want to discuss that?
No, we won't. We discussed it ad nauseum for years that we were trying to make them
Trying to
change.
improve this.
Public comment session coming to an end, unless anyone else has something they'd like to add?
So you have done a report on the changes that you proposed. And you're doing a simplified version that will go out to the public, is that what I'm understanding?
We're working
on something.
Yeah, we want something that's easy to understand, that's not so.
Because everybody I talk to in this community has zero idea about what it is that's been done at all in 6 years on 2072. They haven't got a clue that you guys have changed it. They said,
I agree.
and I talked.
We haven't changed it, let's avoid using the
Well, I'm
language that
saying,
isn't true.
you proposed changes to it. And I don't know, can you say that 51 people want it this way, but you have many more? No, you can't say that. Because I'd say 75% of people in this community don't have a clue
Right.
what's going on. They haven't had, I mean, there was a bigger response to the straw poll than there was to the proposals on either side of this. So I think that that is what needs to happen, and I think we need to have greater transparency all the time for the community. I think there has to be a monthly article that details exactly, we have considered this section of 2072 this month, and this is what we came up with. And why on God's green earth does it take 6 years to do this? I mean, seriously, you could have built the Eiffel Tower or something in 6 years. This shouldn't have taken 6 years, so that's my only criticism.
Part of it is because it's so public, that's why. So public. I mean, and we have criticism of being one thing and maybe not being public, but so much of it, so it's like 1/10. The amount of time it took to get here, if it was private sector, we could do it in a weekend or a month or something, but not when you have to vet every single thing in the public and talk about it and make the minutes, and then have the county get involved and back and forth, because they have their own issues too. We had a bunch of different proposals, comments of proposals that got rejected for good reasons, and we have to pick up those ideas again in the future. And one last thing is that I think that there's a huge amount of people here that are concerned about, and I know Tommy's got some antidotes for this, he said, on the trees and on fighting the towers. And those people are adamant, do not screw with this. And our attorney, I'll say I'm almost done. Our attorney, who got $260,000 or so from us, from the county, the community, said, don't mess with 2072 because you won on the basis of a special district. Yes, there's a height in the underlying district, but you won on the basis of the special district. That is huge. And because we worked with maybe improving it, trying to improve that piece to make it even stronger. And he said, no, eventually he said, no, leave it alone, leave it alone. Because if you mess with it, it proves to the Pro Tower company that you were wrong in the first place.
Is this the same attorney who didn't ask for the $250,000 back from the county that cost you $250,000?
We did. County executive said it was non-starter.
Yeah.
We did ask.
Okay, and I would also make one comment, as Tom acknowledged, and also Kenny before he left, they read our minutes. The minutes are there. They're posted on the county website, and they are boring, maybe, but they list what we, if the community wanted to be up to date on what has happened at a meeting and can't come to the meeting, want to know what changes were discussed. It's
They're not gonna go on that website.
well, but, I mean,
We're talking
So
80%. I'm not gonna go on that
people
website.
explain, and they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Social media, they're gonna go on social media.
well,
They're gonna pick up the
Oh, we're moving along.
but, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone, for your very important input. All right, so correspondence has pretty much been discussed because this is the correspondence we received this month. Also, old business review the status of the proposed changes to 2072. I think we've discussed that issue here. Nothing to add.
Well, we could have a meeting to go and ratify a couple things, all of them, but, so it's all only has to do with, 2019 business, that there was a few loose ends that we wanted to ratify. So we could have a formal meeting about it, or we could just agree to.
I'm lost. What are any ratified?
Ratify the list of things that need to be discussed. Like, for example,
You mean going forward in the 2020 meetings? Like,
no,
this is all about 2019.
about 2072 in 2019.
Okay, now I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's still, but we've made a submission with our
I think the
proposed
document,
suggestions.
the document is a list, a few things that come from close to strong, that we have a discussion. For example, the 9-1, there was a proposal to put a couple paragraphs in of how wonderful we are, basically. But it does have a pretty.
Oh, the
it's
mission
pretty
statement
nice,
kind of,
yeah.
yeah.
And it was suggested maybe that should go into a new sub-area plan instead of in the code. Now, I grew up in both ways, actually, 50-50, that it's nice to have it in the code because it doesn't mean anything except that you're saying it's a nice place and you don't want to go, hey, go. That's sort of what it means. But on the other hand, if it goes to the sub-area plan, maybe that's where it belongs because that's a vision kind of a statement. And so I think we have a great interest here with Holly and Brian to renew the sub-area plan after they get their work done. And I think that's possibly the time to put that in or put something like that in, to revise the vision statement, basically. Put it in the sub-area. So there's a few other things.
Well, there's also the hotel number.
Yeah, that's a good issue.
Cliff Brown is the one who thought he understood what we were talking about on our previous meetings that he attended. And he's the one who put in, I think, hotels or whatever that section is, hotels. Of any number.
Resort commercial.
Of any number of units. I don't think we ever intended for that to be the outcome, but he proposed that language after he heard what we had talked about here. And I would personally suggest we go back to language that
Restricted.
at a more restricted
Basically.
approach.
Because the permitted right now is up to 16. But what if we want more, And the question is, do you want any? You literally want maybe.
I think permitted was even more than that.
It's
It said 16 or less, yeah. 16 or less.
Is it 16 or less?
16, yeah.
It's 16 or less, if you wanna go over 16 under standard code, it then becomes a conditional use permit to expand past.
Well, that's the general condition, right?
Yes.
I'm talking about what's in the proposal that's going to count.
Yeah, do we want to be specific, 50 words? Or, I'm not saying that's right. Or do you want to say, as Chris Strong suggested, his legal language was any number? Because then it would still come under conditional. So you still fight over it anyway. So,
We talked about that at great length, but that,
yeah, but we didn't finalize it in the absolute final, pardon me, for Matt's last version that has been tendered.
I thought we did.
We
Because we did
didn't
discuss
finish
it.
it because Cliff noticed it. And so Steve and I noticed it too.
Oh, so after we finished it, he came back with a,
Yes, he's come back with a little bit of a list, and so we can discuss it. Or we have a special meeting specifically on how to fit everyone.
so you're proposing a special meeting.
We could, yeah, just focus on those items
What are you proposing?
specific for 2019. I'm sick of texting you.
Yeah.
I think I attended 200 meetings last year.
Well, tonight is my final meeting as volunteer on committees, and I've added up almost 30 years of volunteer time on various committees in Fair Harbor. Tonight's my final night. So you go ahead, have another special meeting. If you want, I'll come and offer whatever recollections I have. Oh, then it's on next week. Let's get it on the calendar, let's go.
Did you finish with correspondence, by the way?
We did, we talked about it.
And I would suggest, I hope Pam, you said you're leaving town February 1st or something?
Yeah, we're gonna be gone from the 2nd till the 27th of February.
Okay, so I think both of you two should.
I'm
come to
only
the
available
meeting.
next Tuesday. I'm not available Wednesday or Thursday.
Remember anything.
But
Have you had been appointed?
No, I received this letter, can I read this real quick?
No,
Let's finish
no,
this first.
we have that part of the, no, we're not.
That's the very next thing on the
That's the
agenda.
next thing.
We're not doing that. We're not doing
Next thing.
so we have a meeting next Tuesday?
You want a meeting next Tuesday?
I think the room is available.
Next Tuesday is Flockton County Council.
Okay.
Is it?
That's right, that's what we were planning to go to that one.
Yeah,
I know, it's on
Well, I mean, I could do Monday, but
I
Monday's
didn't
hard
know
for
my
me.
Flockton County Council.
We usually work late, so I would get here late, but like just after 6, but I mean,
There's nothing very late.
well, I'll leave early instead.
I have to do it Monday.
Oh,
Well, if it's 6, I just leave here by 7.
okay, so
Monday at 7?
Monday at 6. Monday at 6.
Monday.
So
Monday the
6th.
27th.
Monday at 6.
Monday.
6 for,
6. Okay, got it. Okay.
Monday's the 27th. Yeah.
I was gonna say the 26th is Sunday, so it's not good.
Okay, so it's not my very last one. All right. I can dream. Okay.
Okay.
Only 2072 revision discussion, right? On the agenda. Okay. And we'll make it a hard stop. 1 hour.
Yeah. That'll work.
Because she's going to go to a meeting and I don't know how well Dave will do.
So 27th, 6 o'clock?
Okay.
Good.
I will try, I'm not sure I can make it.
Okay. Try.
So,
Who maintains the community center calendar to it? Because God bless them. Yeah, well, God bless them. Otherwise, that'd be lost.
and
It's nice that the reference, you know, it's actually accurate. I'm not the kid. Okay. Okay, that's interesting.
okay, is there anything else to discuss on 2072 this time? Okay, thank you everyone. All right, the next thing is the review of the status of the at-large member appointment. And we've since heard from the county executive's office that the appointment hasn't been made. Would you like to read your letter now?
Sure. Okay, good afternoon, Ms. Shepherd. I wanted to provide you with a brief update on the status of your volunteer application for the Point Roberts Community Advisory Committee. Executive Sinew is new to his role as county executive and as such would like to take some time to learn more about the Point Roberts community as a whole. Therefore, he has decided to defer any decision on appointing to the committee at this time. An appointment decision will likely be made within a couple of months or so. Kindest regards, Suzanne Midner. No.
Okay, so it seems like this board's going to be operating with 4 board members for at least the next couple of months, and I guess this board will have to try and schedule something with that fall.
Right, well, the update that I received on the same day that Pam got that, when I asked her for the status update, it was along similar lines, but mentioned specifically that he wants to, he's available to come up here sometime soon, and I was hoping they would propose dates that he could come, but I'm pretty sure his schedule is probably more it's higher than our schedule probably is, but anyway, the first one, Suzanne Wilmer, was for us to come up with some days, some times, and we probably have to include us in nothing.
No, but I think I have some valuable
But
information
yeah,
for them, so I'd like to be
for
there.
sure, the only reason I mentioned that though, because first of all, she didn't think Saturdays were an option. And what she was proposing was to come up for a 3:30 or so meeting with the PRCAC members, and to be followed by another town hall meeting. Get those committed.
About 3:30 in the afternoon, I'm only available on Fridays.
Okay, well, we can propose, we'll just see if Friday if they want to. Okay, Tom, okay. Tom, you have a comment? Okay, anyway, so, and when I did follow up with her again after I did.
What's going on?
She just asked if I could say one.
Okay, after I heard that letter that Dan, I think, got, I asked her, I questioned her about this comment about 2 months or so, and she was, I think I'm hoping that, but the response, the comment I got in response made me feel like maybe that was just putting an outlier. The longest time period it would likely be that they intend or hope to do something sooner. So anyway, the sooner we can get a meeting scheduled for him to come up here, the sooner presumably he can move forward with making his decision, whatever he can base that on.
I could do Monday, February 3rd too.
Okay, so
I've already taken that day off work.
you would have Friday.
Monday, February 3rd,
Or Friday the.
or any of the Fridays.
Okay. How about anybody else?
In February.
2, 3 days or 4, any Friday. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that should be fine, yeah.
Okay.
Do we not need to make sure that this goes, it's not just the PRCAC as far as the board members that are currently sitting and Linda and such, do we not need to have time to get it out to the taxpayers boards and the membership of the taxpayers?
Well, I specifically asked whether by meeting the community, he meant meeting the 3 constituent organizations that funnel into this, or that put a person onto this committee, and that apparently was not his intent. His intent was to meet the community, which I guess was on the town hall meeting. I mean, we'll put it out there with whatever notice we can, once we know what dates he comes back with as acceptable alternatives to him, that match up with these dates that we just come up with, and hopefully it'll be time to get some.
Yeah, the PRIBC received a letter from South Paul as well, indicating that he would be coming up in the next few weeks, and did make mention of the PRCAC in his letter to us.
Good.
And his interest is in seeing how a revision or a review of the ordinance would look from our standpoint. So I guess since it is appointments and at large, I just want to see, is it accurate that as of February 6th, you, Tessa, will be resigning and another PRBA board member will take the post?
Yes, you got it.
Well, that's fine. I mean, there have been talks about changing how the members are selected, whether there's discussion about having 5 at-large or more at-large with the same number of proposed groups. Whatever, that can all be in flux, and it's in some ways up to the county, hopefully without input.
It's entirely up to the county.
Exactly.
I'd like to make sure that, like Mark Robbins is available, because I know at the taxpayers AGM is where it was originally brought up, and it was started by the taxpayers about possibly changing the structure and such, and then it got brought up with voters, and I know both groups were both talking about it, and I know taxpayers, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, they decided not to put any recommendations to the current executive to wait till the new county council sat. We had a new executive because it seemed futile to give it to the guy leaving.
Yeah.
But they know that is extremely important to that board, and they are actually the one who kind of got the ball started. So making sure that they're available is important. To do it too quickly and then not be available would not be kosher.
And there were actually several different proposals that were possible to revise PRCAC. So we all know that not just one way, it's several.
Okay. Okay, well, I'm gonna put these dates.
Thank you. You're gonna contact Suzanne and see if we can arrange a time and date and.
I can certainly check with Mark. Just to see whether this is in the works.
Mhm.
Well, also, as we're starting this process, what's your general availability from the voters?
I'm not available, of course, the voters for the first, on February 6th, because we have our voters AGM. Other than that, I'm at county council every other Tuesday, and in Bellingham for other various reasons. But other than that, I'm fairly flexible.
The Fridays that we were looking at.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Then I confirm the rules, so we have the space here for the Monday meeting.
Okay, I got it in my calendar, that's good. Okay, so I guess there's nothing more to review on that situation because he's not gonna take any action until he meets the community. All right, I'm not recalling any new business. Do we have any new business to discuss?
Can I bring up something?
Sure.
It would be better if the chamber person was here, but I had some float builders in the community approach me, and they thought it would be a great idea to do a nautical theme this year for the parade in light of Race Week.
Okay,
So, I just want to put that out there.
thank you. Tom?
Yeah, so for new business, I just wanted to make note that you received a submission in hard copy here tonight for Point Roberts Vision 2020, which is inclusive of the 2020 scope of work for consideration being sent to the executive and council, as well as the forthcoming comprehensive economic report. Insofar as new business goes for Point Roberts Independent Business Council, that would probably make up the entirety of 2020 for us. So we just wanted to make sure you were clear on this. On Monday, the final draft will be rolling out. That'll be made available publicly on our website. It will also be available from the county council and the county executive's office if you want to get a hard copy or you want to ask them for their input. And each one of the proposals listed in the scope of work for consideration is a fully complete proposal on each one of these line items. So for the new business that you might find worth discussing in the new year, I'm sure a number of these subjects will be dear and near to the hearts of folks all throughout the community. You might want to give some consideration to participating with the other agencies that are involved.
Thank you.
Are these in order?
In order of importance,
Yeah.
fair to say yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other new business that we need to discuss? All right, then I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn at 7 p.m. Okay, thanks again for coming, everyone. Sharing your opinions.
Very rare.
I mean, honestly, such a complicated like you do on that.
Busy, keep them busy.
Girl.
I'm certified, OPM.
Yeah.